This is the Strategist episode 1877. My name is Zain Velji. With me, as always, Shannon Phillips, Stephen Carter. How are you, folks?
I'm having a great day. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a spectacular day today.
Is it? Is it a spectacular day? Shannon, does that same go for you?
Oh, yeah. And, I had a really great interaction the other day with Tony at Mountain Equipment Company, who said that he was enjoying hearing me on The Strategist when I was doing my return. So shout out to Tony.
No, we on the show like to do full first and last name. Does Tony have a last name so we can both address him by last name and dox him? Because that's what we also like to do.
Ideally, getting him fired is really what we're aiming for.
Yeah, we're after you, Doug Wong.
Yeah.
I don't know his last name. I didn't ask. I didn't pry to that level of detail, you guys. You're going to have to go there yourselves.
That's unfortunate. No,
we've got fans everywhere.
It's weird, how are we now going to get to the bottom of Tony?
Yeah,
what do we know about him? Where did you say it's an equipment company?
Mountain Equipment my heavenly company. Days.
Mountain Equipment. What is this? Why? Oh, this is, once again, white people things.
Oh, my God. How do you not know about Mountain Equipment Company? It used to be Mountain Equipment Co-op.
Yeah, okay.
Now it's the company.
This is what threw me off. I heard Mountain, I heard Equipment, and then I heard Company. What happened to Co-op?
They changed it. It's not a Co-op anymore.
What?
Yeah. Well, it got bought out. It was this whole thing. So, it's
now it's a company.
Is this a socialist death note?
It's still MEC. But
I did not know it's company. It's not.
Yeah, it's.
I don't like
kind
that.
Of sad.
It is kind of sad.
But Tony's still there. He's a really good guy.
Was Tony there from the co-op days, and now he's there?
I don't know.
Days?
I did not pry
Jesus
as
Christ.
to his
you kind of left things
history.
Really limited.
Yeah,
we
for
should
a former politician.
Well,
this small talk went nowhere.
Well, he was really excited about The Strategist, so I was happy to talk about that.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you for.
What did you say about us? Did you say we were pretty great to work with, or what did you say?
No, I said I was surprised that anyone was listening to your show.
Yeah. Did you also tell them that we rarely confirm what time we're going to record and expect you to be there? Was that also mentioned?
No, we didn't get into that level of detail. But
okay.
It was funny though, because I used to joke all the time. People would say to me, "Oh, people must, recognize you." And I was like, "No, absolutely not. Outside of Lethbridge, nobody has any idea.
Knows who you are. Sure.
Because nobody knows who ministers are. And that is a fantastic arrangement. But the only place where this was not true as the environment minister for the province was anytime I would go to a Mountain Equipment Co-op at the time, people would come up to me and want to talk to me about the environment. That was, and it happened again, even 10 years post ministerial life. So there you go. The climbers and the mountain bikers and the people interested in the outdoors are still interested in the outdoors.
That's right. The mountain bikers. Huh, Zain? Huh?
Carter, I'm going to ask you out for a second, because I think we've got a scandal brewing that I need Shannon's opinion first, which is one young Corey Hogan, formerly of this podcast, now member of Parliament for Calgary Confederation. Shannon, you're familiar with this young gent. Carter, you're, of course, familiar with this young gent. He was on our most recent episode of Ministry of Podcasts. He is refusing to wear cowboy boots, Shannon, this Stampede. There is pictorial evidence of this, and I'm going to call him out. But before I call him out, I want to actually get your confirmation that I'm right in calling him out for not wearing cowboy boots, Shannon.
You are absolutely not right. They are high heels for men. They are extremely uncomfortable. I would usually wear them on the first date because I'm not a high heels gal myself. Neither too am I a cowboy boots gal. Normally, all you Calgary people are not wearing them in your daily life, so they're not broken in.
It's part of the costume. It's part of the costume.
That's the whole point. The whole costume part of Stampede is silly and ridiculous. So while I enjoy them as an element of, sort of like men having to know what it's like to wear uncomfortable footwear, I don't really wish it on a nice man such as Corey.
Wow.
And you can still pull off your cosplay without your high heels.
This is insane.
I don't know.
From a former elected official? Jesus Christ, Carter.
I think emphasis on former.
Yeah.
I think... Holy!
We'll just let people assume by choice, but may not be. Who knows?
May not have been. I mean, could she have gotten elected again?
With that stance, I don't think so.
If this had been public information, there's no way in the province of Alberta.
Carter, are you going to help me call out Corey Hogan on this?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, he mentioned he would do this on the pod, but I thought he was fucking around because this is like is it third rail or fourth rail that he's touching here?
This is the fifth rail.
Fifth rail. Let's go with fifth rail. Just to be safe.
Fifth rail of Canadian politics.
Let's just go with fifth.
Right after, he's not even wearing a hat the times I've seen him.
Like you have to actually like mail it in on some level. You don't have to wear the high heels, but you should actually have a hat or a good shirt. A good belt buckle would make up for it.
He has a good belt buckle. He does have a good belt buckle.
All right. If you got a nice dinner plate happening, then I think you're good.
Okay, so here's what I'm suggesting. Shannon's a softie for this shit, but we're going to get more pictorial evidence of one Corey Hogan in his Stampede outfit as the days go by. He's hosting his own breakfast on Sunday. Carter, let's reassemble on this point, and let's just do a check-in on how this guy is doing by, let's say, next episode.
Sounds good.
Because I think his high watermark has already been reached, and it's only going to get sloppier from here.
No, I mean already. I'm not sure he's going to get reelected.
Okay.
Big question marks.
I don't know if he can.
I am happy to fashion police the whole thing, but I just don't think you have to wear high heels.
Oh my God, Shannon, you're so wrong. Carter, last time we talked, you were not aware who Zohran Mamdani was. Are you now Zohran pilled?
I am, because I've actually done an article on it. Comparing.
This is why I'm asking.
Yeah,
you had no fucking clue who this guy was, and then you gave a post-media interview about how he's exactly like Nenshi.
In fairness, that was the columnist's premise.
I know it was,
and all I did was give examples of how Nenshi behaved, and then he drew the connections. I didn't have to. It was, but I did. I think I built up Nenshi. I mean, I think I made Nenshi seem pretty good to show up in the national newspaper, not the real one, but the secondary one.
Shannon, are we right to be Zohran pilled with what's happening with his campaign and that outcome and that surprise victory? And before you answer, let me just show you some visual evidence of what I have here, which is a child-size Hot Boys for Zohran shirt, which can be seen on my son at Pancake Breakfast near you.
Yeah, with no cowboy boots. Now, look, I think we are right on a couple of different levels. Number one, he captured attention. Number two, he's got all the right aesthetics, right? And his social media reflects how people want to consume information these days. Number three, you don't have to copy, the policy offers, but you do have to have something that speaks to people, and they need to be somewhat substantive. He did that as well. And he's also handled, I think, the attacks on him, which are only going to get worse and more completely banana pants, like the nonsense that showed up in the New York Times yesterday. I think he's pushed them back in an effective way. Like the woman, Sarah, I can't remember her last name, who is the first trans legislator out of Delaware. Same sort of idea on how to, use your superpowers to jujitsu the bad guys coming at you. He's done a good job of that.
I like that. Carter, any final thoughts on Zohran Mamdani, the guy that you were following from the beginning before we move it on?
Yeah, I mean, it was very evident that I was actually, from the nascent elements of his campaign, very involved. Yeah. Very involved. So I'm happy that I've been able to offer some really insightful commentary.
No, thank you, Carter. I appreciate that. Let's move it on to our first and our only segment for this show, Fine, Fabulous, or Fucked, Alberta edition. Shannon, are you familiar with the premise of this segment? Have you ever listened to the show? Do you know what we're about to do?
I actually don't know the premise of this particular thing, but I reject the premise.
Oh, okay, well, fantastic. Thank you. It's not possible. Here's what we're going to do. I am going to run you through a series, because it's been a while since we've chatted. There's a series of things that have happened in Alberta. We've had by-elections come and go. I kind of faintly recall you guys gave some predictions for by-elections.
Oh, how'd we do?
No, I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
We've had the resurgence, perhaps, of the Progressive Conservative Party. We've had the Alberta Next panel. We now have a sovereignty referendum question, kind of. I want to talk about that. We also have our first chief of the new independent agency police service. Talk about all those things. And I will ask you, and I'll give you the story, which I kind of teased, and then I'll ask you for a particular character, political party, individual. Is this fine? Is this fabulous? Or is this fucked? And Shannon, as I always say, there's no better way to get started than to get started. And let's start with this. Let's start with the by-election results. 3 provincial by-elections are now concluding, including the high-profile Alberta NDP leader, Nayib Nenshi. He's now in Edmonton-Strathcona, 82% of the vote. Check. The NDP also held on to Edmonton-Ellerslie, though with a reduced margin. And the UCP retained Old Didsbury Three Hills amid a split opposition that including strong showing from the Alberta Republican Party. Although, I will say, not that strong 20 to 30% showing, Carter, that you and I had speculated about when we chatted last time. So, Shannon, the character, and let's just make it the Alberta NDP. They win 2, they lose 1. Fine, fabulous, or fucked as it relates to the by-election outcomes for the Alberta NDP?
I think it's fine. I mean, it doesn't quite cross over the threshold into fabulous, but it is fine. And what it tells you is that through a change of leadership, through all of these, different, changes in the Alberta political landscape, that the New Democrats are fine in Edmonton, at least right now. And that it showed you that, when the organization and the ground game gets turned up in a place like Ellerslie, where, let's all be honest, not a whole lot had been going on there since, forever. And so... I
mean, not intended to be a direct criticism of your colleague, Rod.
There wasn't a whole lot going on there, and so
we gave you the off ramp. We were like, oh, she probably means in terms of community vibrancy, or just that it was just a cookie cutter neighborhood.
Oh, it's a very, very vibrant place, and there's been a lot going on.
Not a lot going on there. Okay.
In Mill Woods and elsewhere, but let's face it, the organizationally, it wasn't exactly tight in Ellerslie prior, but it showed that the New Democrats, when they activate that ground game, there it is, and it's they were able to deliver. They were able to push back on a lot of the naysaying. And frankly, I was a little nervous. I said on this podcast, I don't know if they're 5 points down or five points up, and you can't tell. And they just had a federal election exercise where the Conservatives did very well, and in the same kind of neighborhood where Amarjeet Sohi was expected to do really well, and he didn't. There were reasons to be a bit titchy there, and it was fine. Right? The reduced margin, I think, is fine. It's a by-election. It's fine. And the same margin in Edmonton Strathcona is also fine. In other words, when the electorate was introduced to Naheed in Edmonton, when people switched on to the fact that there was a by-election, because most people are normal and they didn't probably realize that the official opposition leader didn't have a seat yet and all these other machinations, right? They're not us. When they switched on, they were like, oh, yes, of course. And they went and did the thing. So everything is fine. As for Old Didsbury, I also think that is an indication of fine for the Alberta NDP, because essentially the points they put on the board were the same points they put in the 2023, where there was a decent growth in the outside of Edmonton and Calgary ridings. Not enough, obviously, to be anything near a threat, but reasonable. And reasonable to, buoy the base to maybe find yourself candidates and activated folks in school board elections or support, really active women in municipal elections, this kind of stuff, right? This is the kind of thing that the party wants to put out there and do, and it accomplished. So fine. Is it? I don't know what fabulous would be in this context, right? Like, I don't know, maybe an overwhelming landslide in Ellerslie, which is probably not going to happen in some kind of suburban riding, or really tamping down that separatist vote and eating more into the UCP and Olds. But also, it's a June by-election. Like, what are you going to do? So, no, it's great.
Carter, Shannon's going with the package is fine for her, for the Alberta NDP. Fine, fabulous, or fuck for Stephen Carter? What are you choosing?
I mean, Shannon's just being weak. This is fabulous for the NDP. The NDP were rumored to be losing Ellerslie. They did not lose Ellerslie. They came in second in Old Didsbury Three Hills. I mean, that is an achievement when the Alberta Republicans were rumored to be doing exceptionally well. So overall, I mean, and then she won a seat. And gets to go in. This is a fabulous showing for the NDP. It doesn't get any better than this. And there was a rumor of a potential, fall election provincially that I think has gone away because things have gone so well for the NDP in these elections. I was very impressed with how it all ultimately turned out. Not necessarily how the process necessarily unfolded, but the outcome, if we're
what do you mean by process here? Just so
I would have liked to have seen this been more of a province-wide style of by-elections, right? Where the NDP tried to make themselves more seen and heard province-wide.
With the message.
I think that they have a province-wide problem. But if we're just going with the outcome, it's fabulous, and Shannon's wrong when she says that it's just fine.
Well, I'll tell you who's wrong. It was Carter in the last episode when he was predicting, it could be doom in Ellerslie. And people who don't know what they're talking about were predicting that, because that would have meant a 24-point drop for the New Democrats in Edmonton. And even in polling where we've seen them drop a few points here and there, it's not a 24-point drop. So this was just people grafting something else, some other narrative onto what was likely going to happen in Edmonton.
By the way, before you speak, I just want to say I appreciate this accountability, and I welcome Shannon to bring it anytime.
Could be in trouble. That's what I said. I don't know if you said that.
It's horse like, feathers. That's
you know what
not
sucks
what
that we
said.
don't have a producer that could probably pull the clip, and if it doesn't align with what Shannon and I want it to be, edit it out. It sucks that we don't have that. It sucks that we don't have that.
It sucks. Yeah. The Alberta New Democratic Party will lose Stellarsley. That is a prediction.
Okay, can I quickly ask you, Shannon? Let me start with you. For the Alberta Republican Party, I'm going to pull the number 18%, 17.6 something percent. Fine, fabulous, or fucked for them in the old Didsbury Three Hills. If they're on their rampage to do whatever their eventual goal is, what do you make of what they did? Or how
I think they're kind of fucked. If they can't organize there, in the hotbed of this sort of separatist activity, not for the last 5 years, but quite literally for the last almost 50. Right, when was that Western Canada Concept guy elected in a by-election early 80s?
Yeah.
So, if you can't pull it off there, then you are not pulling it off. When all of your so-called organizational resources that we were all supposed to be quaking in our cowboy boots about is not there. There was no there. And by all accounts, these guys are all, backstabbing and fighting with each other and, relitigating whatever conspiracy theory du jour. So, no, I think they're probably fucked. But they might not be fucked for long. It really depends on how they can raise money and,
interesting.
Sort of steal the consciousness.
You're not saying fucked forever. You're saying
no, but fucked right now
for this outcome. Carter, one person who was not shaking in his cowboy boots at the organizational strength. Corey Hogan. Corey Hogan. It was one Corey Hogan.
Yeah,
Carter,
never shaking.
Are you also going with fucked on this?
Absolutely going with fucked. I'm not going with kinda. This is an absolute bad outcome for the Republicans. They put forward a strong candidate. They were well organized. When I was driving on Highway 2, we certainly saw more signs for the Alberta Republicans than you saw for any other party. And yet they got beaten by the NDP, beaten by the UCP. This is a absolute fucked in a place where this would be the high watermark in Alberta for separatist sentiment, and they just weren't able to pull it off. And it bodes well for the idea of a referendum question.
Can I take a quick detour? And I wish I had the polling in front of me, but I'm going to go off what I've been hearing, which is the openness to separation number has been steadily increasing. Have the two of you also heard this? I'm hearing that it's now between the 30 and 40% mark. So I'm trying to understand the reconciliation of 30 to 40% openness with a sub 20% sort of result in what should be the high water mark. Historically has been a seat that this broader sentiment has won in the 80s. Reconcile that for me. Like, average of those two is where we land with the referendum, or am I overly simplifying the math here and projecting something that's not real?
You're assuming that everybody who is a separatist doesn't see, only sees themselves in the Alberta Republican Party.
Sure.
I think a large number of separatists see themselves in the UCP.
Right, within the actual home of it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Shannon, any thoughts here?
I would want to see how the question is asked and who's asking it, because honestly, if some of this is in the framing of it. Yeah. How people are going to respond to it. I do think a lot of people still think of it as a threat or as a leverage point. And to Carter's point, then they're going to find their champion in Danielle Smith, and they're going to park it there. So there's two caveats there. The only thing I will note is on the socials, you do see a lot of AI generated content. If you go into those right-wing spaces, there's a ton of separatist content, right? And so there's money behind it. If it actually becomes organized money, I become a little bit more concerned. I'm not particularly right now, and because they also don't have one one question or one grievance, really. They're kind of all over the place, right? Like, and people who went to the town halls that the candidate, Cam Davies, had for the Republican Party in that by-election, most of it was people, being cranky about COVID 5 years hence. And so there's still a lot of that garbage there. And as long as they're stuck in the mud there and not just putting forward one coherent, this is the thing that I want and Danielle won't get me, and that's why we have to separate. I think it gets sort of mired in, the sort of David Parker weird world of, people doing turf wars and worried about the World Economic Forum and all that.
Carter, I'm moving on.
Okay.
The character, it's the UCP and Danielle Smith in this situation.
Character,
the issue is the resurgence of the Progressive Conservative Party. UCP MLAs former Peter Guthrie, Scott Sinclair, both ejected from the caucus, are criticizing Smith's leadership, have historically. They're now planning to revive the Progressive Conservative Party. Their move aims to offer an alternative to what they describe as a divisive two-party system, challenge the UCP from the center-right. That's what they say. So, which is why I've positioned the character as being the UCP. Is this fine for the UCP? Is this fabulous? Or are they fucked? Assuming these guys are successful in any three of these scenarios. Fine, fabulous, or fucked, the resurgent PCs under these two gents.
I think the UCP is fine. It's not fabulous for them. Getting pressured from both the far right with the Republicans and from the center right from a Progressive Conservative Party could be very, very problematic. I mean, ultimately, that's how the NDP would be able to get the number of votes that are required to win an election. Mm-hmm. But this is an imaginary threat at this stage. That's why it's fine.
Yep.
It's you would have to have me imagine that this is actually successful.
Can you go down that rabbit hole for a second? I'll let both of you do so. Talk to me about the likelihood of success in your mind in terms of revival. Like, we're talking everything from party name to effectively being a destination for some of those disaffected.
I think that if they'd been able to grab two NDP MLAs and two more UCP MLAs and put them all together into one thing and had a fairly substantive caucus,
party?
Then I think that they would have had a chance. I think that two people, it's just too easy to dismiss. The exception in the room, of course, is the NDP when they were down to two members in Brian and Rachel, that they were able to be a successful party, but they'd had history. And one could argue that the Progressive Conservatives have history, but it's 10 years ago. And I'm not sure that they have the strength to come back and actually be a growing concern. I hope that they can. I think that a middle is very important. But I think it might be more of a threat to the NDP than it would be to the UCP.
We'll talk about that in a second, because I want to ask both of you that question. But Shannon, I'll give you the same shake. Fine, fabulous, or fucked for the UCP. Let's start with them. If these guys are successful in starting up a Progressive Conservative Party, what is it for the UCP?
Well, I think, first of all, it's fine because they need a ruling from Elections Alberta, and the legislation was written that people couldn't use the names of the legacy parties to avoid confusion, as Daniela put it in her press conference. But yeah, they explicitly did that nobody could resurrect those party names. And it's in our elections legislation. So best of luck to them on that. Number two, if they wanted to get official party status, I don't think they're going to get that out of the UCP without two more. It is smart for them as those two independents, though, to have a party name associated with them. I just don't think it's going to be PCAA.
Well, let me ask a question about the NDP. Who gets fucked more if this thing is successful, the UCP or the NDP? Shannon, I'll go with you first.
I think it's the NDP, probably on balance. Take 2019 when you had a united right, but you had the Alberta Party that I can't remember what their province-wide tally was, but I know what they put up on the board in Lethbridge West. It was 9 points.
Right. So this is about like
I won
removing
by
the NDP as like the simple, plain alternative for anyone disaffected.
correct. I won
right.
by 226 votes in that election. Fast forward to 2023, and I'm standing on people's doorsteps, and they go, "I've always been a conservative, but I cannot vote for Danielle Smith for X, Y, and Z reasons. So I'm going with you this time. I used to be on, the guy that you beat's riding association or whatever, and I left the PCs and I parked it with the UCP for a couple of turns here, and now I'm out." Right? It does give a release valve for those middle of the road voters that are the accessible voter pool in Calgary, in particular. Yeah. And so if there is an off ramp, I mean, the good news is that I think Nenshi can occupy more of that lane maybe than Notley could have, just because of her historic ties to that really orange brand.
Yep.
However, I still think that it gives enough people to go, oh, I'm allergic to the alphabet. I couldn't possibly vote for the NDP, but I'm going to go back to a conservative alternative if they get any wind in their sails. But we'll see.
Carter, do you land in the same spot? If it was, who does this have more of a destructive potential impact to, NDP or UCP? Are you choosing the NDP on this?
Well, I think so. I think one could go back to 2015 and say, well, ultimately the NDP won because there was two parties on the right that split the quote-unquote right vote. But we know that vote split's not a real thing, that everybody starts from zero and they have to work their way up. And I think that the party that would be most likely still to form a majority government or even a minority government would be the UCP over the NDP. So I do think that this hurts the NDP more. In the long run, there's a lot of water under the bridge. And I don't think that everybody who votes NDP is naturally an NDP voter. Whereas I do think that most of the people who are voting for the UCP at this stage are naturally a UCP voter.
Right. So this is to that earlier point about the simple sort of alternative. So, in that sense, let me ask a very plain strategy question to the two of you. Should the UCP not want this? Should the UCP not I know you're saying on balance, both of you, and you're both hedging a bit, in your language. Yeah. But if you're the UCP, Carter, should you not just want this? It's another factor that the NDP have to deal with, especially, as Shannon says, potentially in Calgary.
If I were the UCP, I think it would be fine. I think that it would be great to talk about the Liberals and call the PCs the Liberals, the middle of the road centrist party, and equate them to the Liberals. But the UCP seems to want to have its cake and eat it too. They want to be the rumor of an election. They've got a majority government. They don't need an election to continue to govern, but they just want to have more. They want to have more power, more ability to do things, more structure, and that means eliminating democratic opportunities.
Shannon, same question to you. Should the UCP not be pushing for this in some way? If they come to the same conclusion the two of you have, which is on balance is less helpful to the NDP than themselves, why would they not push for this?
I don't think they need to. I don't think it's going to amount to anything anyway. The fact of the matter is that the use of the name is probably dead in the water.
Non-starter.
And the two MLAs that are, kind of founding it are not exactly setting the world on fire, right? They're fine, but they're not fabulous. So in my view, they're just fine. And their reasons for leaving were extremely disparate and not really grounded in, anything particularly ideological. I mean, Scott Sinclair was like, I didn't get money for my highway, right? I'm out. Can't support this budget. It was a bit silly. And for Guthrie, I think it was a bit more substantive. But I mean, there's no policy differences on austerity versus robust health and public education system for him. There's not those big differences. So in the absence of some compelling leader figure, I think that's not really going anywhere, and the UCP don't have to concern themselves with it.
We're going to move on. Shannon, I'm going to stick with you on this. The character, let's go stick with Danielle Smith of the UCP on this. The Alberta Next panel. As a piece of political strategy, is this fine, fabulous, or fucked? And to fill in the gaps for those that don't know about this, this is a new panel that the Premier will chair, tasked for gathering public input, developing recommendations on how Alberta can strengthen its position within Canada, and then study questions like the Alberta pension plan, transitioning from the RCMP to provincial police force, constitutional changes to the Senate and House of Commons, federal transfer payments, equalization, immigration reform to give Alberta more control. Stuff that we've all heard about now put back into a panel chaired by the Premier and having some credible names that we have heard across our province. Adam Legge, Trevor Tombe, just naming two, not picking on two, just naming two folks that I think folks listening might be familiar with. That will be part of this panel. So as an act of political strategy on the Premier's part, that's the frame I'm looking at. Is this fine? Is this fabulous? Or is this fucked?
It's fabulous. This allows her to, get out there, talk to people, really take the temperature on the ground of how much separatist sort of fervor is gripping the landscape out in the hills. She is able to, just do retail politics, which she's quite good at. And they can decide what they're going to do with it all in an offer to the electorate, and if they have to do anything. All of this is just zombie file after zombie file. What wasn't contained in the initial offerings of the Reform Party back in the 1980s was contained within the various panels and other study exercises that have been undertaken by Ralph Klein onward. And things that have been serially rejected by Albertans, police service, CPP, that kind of stuff. So I think it's smart of her to do it because they can do their, have a little a la carte menu of the things that they actually want to do, if anything, at the end. And she's been able to rope in a couple of credible people and stick this, make them wear some of this, right? Which is maybe unfortunate for them, but they're being well used by her.
Yeah, I want to talk about that part in a second. Carter and Shannon's also alluded to this other element, which I did not mention for the audience, which is that they have to submit recommendations by the end of the year, and these may inform the referendum questions, plural, that the province-wide vote will more than likely happen in 2026. Carter, as an act of political strategy on behalf of the Premier, fine, fabulous, or fucked?
I think it's fucked because it gives everybody the opportunity to rally around or rally opposition to the Premier. This is a number of unpopular ideas that have been around since the 1990s, as Shannon has indicated.
Zombie files, I love that term.
Zombie files. These are not winners. Some of them might be necessary. I mean, at some point we may have a requirement to do a provincial police force in lieu of the RCMP because the RCMP may choose to give up community policing. That would be interesting. That is not the case today. That is an imagined future that no one has indicated, and there would be one would imagine, a fairly long lead time on something like that. But these aren't winners. These are losing ideas that she just continues to press, and at some point the expectation is that she's going to be able to get the right answer. But generally, people aren't changing their minds on these issues.
But can I interrupt you for 1 second on this?
Well, you just did.
Okay, so here's a premise that may not, I actually personally do not believe holds, but I am curious to explore for a second. Can you put a bunch of individual pieces of shit together, put them in a singular package, and have the package be more popular than the individual pieces of crap? The zombie files, right? These are losers. And
you're asking equalization to do a tremendous lift in that case. I mean, we've already had the panel on equalization. One will remember that Stephen Harper was the one who brought in the current formula. Stephen Harper, the renowned separatist. But this is the challenges of the file is that you can't make something that is bigger than the whole in this particular case. And that's why I think she's absolutely fucked. She's trying too hard to force people into her positioning. And ultimately there's going to be a rebound effect. I'm hoping that we get multiple questions.
But maybe the only way. This is my question. She does this. She puts this out. She gets to tour the province. I kind of see where Shannon's coming from, right?
Shannon's just wrong. She's just wrong. She's just wrong.
The Premier gets to do all the shit, and you're saying, "Oh no, it's not that. That's what matters."
You're going to go and shovel shit in all these different cities. You're
not shoveling shit on any of these topics in Okotoks, Alberta. It's going to go just fine.
Well, I wonder, is there an actual election in Okotoks ever? No one. It's all UCP in Okotoks.
But the wind in the sails of the separatists is coming from those places.
The fuck? Oh yeah, we just saw old Didsbury Three Hills, and they couldn't beat the fucking DP, the NDP, for God's sake. In rural Alberta, they couldn't beat the NDP. I mean, this is fucked. Fucked, I tell you. And Shannon trying to turn it into like, oh, it's a nice little thing. I mean, fuck you, Shannon. Jesus Christ.
Oh,
Jesus.
I haven't done that yet. I've been waiting to really hit you with something.
I think it was pre-scripted.
Yeah, I think the cowboy boots, your position on it has really gotten animated.
Really upset me.
This opens up the question, though, what do we think her goal here is? Can we talk about her strategic goal? Because I think Shannon's given me in her answer a good explanation of it, which is to kind of go out there and create the narrative. Shannon, tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, right? That there is a big separatism crisis, and come back to the electorate and say, we got to deal with this. Like, that's the kind of like, my findings have concluded the following. It's almost like the responses to each one of these shitty policies is the B track. The A track is, I've been out there all summer and there's a crisis out in our communities. And
I
I'm
think
the one
there's
to resolve
that
it.
for sure, because she loves that, right? She's been talking about, it's as bad as I've ever seen it.
And she's trying to change her position on it, so to speak. Like, she's allowing this to happen and then also like donning the Canada flag.
Sure, but what she's doing is she's both taking the temperature. She's kind of getting out there and going, okay, here's what the temperature is, but she's also playing around with the thermostat. She's doing both. And it allows her to use public money to do that, and also make her caucus happy, because there's caucus out there in the hinterland who are probably getting an earful on this stuff. So, when the premier comes, she hears people out. It allows them a bit of an arrow to the balloon as well, because some of this is caucus management. That's what the Cole Town Hall for her was as well, right? When the premier shows up and either accepts the criticism or pushes back on it or hears people out, it's received well by local MLAs, put it that way. So she's doing that, but she also, there was some polling. It was done by Janet Brown, and it was leaked out by the government. It was exclusive to the government of Alberta, and it was a couple of months ago, and it essentially showed a turning up of the dial, even on the zombie files that are otherwise quite unpopular, like CPP. Even Alberta Police Service was the only one that didn't have sort of like into majority territory. And so what she's doing is going out to, seeing if that is real or if she can make it more real. And there was a series of questions, equalization, all those zombies, right? And they did this. So they've used our public money to do some of that temperature taking. And now she wants to go out and play with the thermostat. If she, gets another kick at the can to, use this to further grievances with Ottawa, all the better, but not necessary right now. That'll come later.
Carter, what do you think she's trying?
Changed my whole position.
Yeah, I'm sure she has.
Shannon has flipped me right around.
The man who's never changed his mind.
I've changed my mind. Shannon just totally won me over there. Well, way to go, Shannon. That's some of your best work. Best reasoning.
What is the premier trying to do, Carter? What do you think her core objectives are?
I think that the phrasing
I don't want to forget, by the way, about the people she's brought into the mix. I'm not going to forget about that, but yes.
Well, she's this idea that she's playing with the thermostat, once she's taken the temperature, this is the playing with the thermostat part. And that's the part I can really get behind with Shannon. She is trying to turn up the temperature. She is trying to light the province on fire and ultimately try and ride a wave of separatist fever. And that is, that's why I think it's fucked. I think that ultimately Albertans are going to be more loyal to the province of Alberta than that.
Yeah, but okay, so if you think that's the play, let's be clear around where you think she's going. So she's dialing up the temperature, and then she rides separatist fever, right, using your term, against separatism. Right? Like, is that, I just want to be clear where you think she's going. Like, what her.
I have no idea where she's going. I don't believe she's riding against separatism.
You don't think that's going to be play 2 and 3?
I'm told that
she dials it up, says there's a crisis, and says she needs to quash it?
Literally was told today that there are board members on UCP boards that are very pro-separatist. And they are trying to keep these people in line. And the way that they're trying to keep these people in line is to play the game. And they're playing this game, and this game is ultimately something that cannot succeed. It will not succeed, and it might be the only way that the NDP under Naheed Nenshi get lucky enough to win the election, because Naheed right now isn't building himself up an army to oppose the UCP, but an army may form to oppose this separation nonsense that Danielle Smith is playing with. She's playing with fire. She's turning up the thermostat in an already hot room, and it's going to catch on fire. And that's why it's fucked, in my opinion, and why I've turned my mind again. And Shannon was completely fucking wrong.
Okay, I'm going to go to our last question here, and then I want to talk about Stampede.
Weren't we supposed to do a tight 45? Like, what the hell's happened, man?
We're at 39. We're good.
Oh,
What the fuck are you talking about?
Sorry.
You get into a fiery rage. You can't even read the red timestamp with the thing that's just glowing in front of you, which says 39:51. Okay,
had a
Carter.
good day going, and then Shannon started spouting off about Fabulous. And
Shannon, Mr. Thomas Lukaszuk, he has had this idea for this question, this referendum question, as part of Forever Canada. He filed this question, which is a pro-Canada... I always get this confused, so you guys are going to help me out, right? This pro-Canada referendum question, which is, do you agree that Alberta should remain in Canada? That petition question was now approved on June 20th, just before Canada Day, and now he must collect signatures that take effect on July 1st, must collect nearly 294,000 signatures within 90 days, rather than the lower threshold that has been applied that the Premier has made way for the Separatists to kind of do their question. Lukaszuk has now got there first, got his question approved, now is to collect signatures to put this on a ballot. Okay. Is the fact base correct from what you two understand so far? Okay.
Yes.
As it relates to Danielle Smith and the UCP, is the fact that Lukaszuk is here with this question fine in the way he's trying to do it and his steps ahead, as we've explained in broad terms? Is this fabulous? Shannon, this is a gold mine for Smith. This is great. Or is this fucked? Oh my God, real danger to whatever her agenda is. And I would be speculating here what her agenda is. Fine, fabulous, or fucked as it relates to what Lukaszuk he's up to and this broader Forever Canada movement, which I'll call from now on. What they're up to with their referendum question.
It's fine on a Likert scale that goes further over to fabulous for Thomas Lukaszuk and further over to fucked for Danielle Smith. I think getting to that 293 or 4, whatever it is going to be nigh on impossible.
Absolutely impossible.
90 days from now, so, pretty much. Yeah.
So but it will provide momentum. It will be a counterweight. It will give people something to do and a reason to go to these stupid town halls that she's having across the province. It'll give, it will give civil society something to do. It'll give the Raging Grannies a piece of paper to sign when they show up. And so I think that is bad for Smith. It also does give a bit of a gift to the New Democrats. It's a great way to go around canvassing this summer, to be collecting signatures. I would be, because otherwise, why are you standing on my door, right? Like, for a lot of voters, they're like, usually you should have something for voters to do when you show up there as an incumbent. And so I think it's good for them. And it also places, I think, the NDP leader in a place of authenticity for him. Right, like
on the Canada side of things.
Yeah, he's very good on the Captain Canada stuff, and so it provides an organizing sort of ethos, principle, reason for being over the summer, and a counterweight to this Alberta Next stuff.
Carter, fine, fabulous, or fucked for the UCP, the Lukaszuk drive that's going to happen now to collect these signatures, which is a hybrid, and we'll talk about what we think the outright reality is of this situation overall, but. Give me a fine, fabulous, or fucked first.
I think it's fucked for them. I think that they're really screwed if you're the UCP, because the question isn't going to get 293,000 signatures. There's just no way. We were talking about 177,000 as being nearly impossible. 293 just is ridiculously hard. And I believe the legislation prohibits another question from being circulated for 6 months. Or 18 months. On the broader
topic.
Yeah. At 6 months, 18 months, I can't remember what the numbers are specifically, but it does prohibit it. Now, one could make the case, and I suspect the UCP will, or the separatists will, that because the legislation changed, this means that the timer should start again. So they'll submit their question under the second timer. But I think that they're really going to have a hard time getting this question through. And ultimately, that it's going to remove it from the citizens' part of the referendum. However, it doesn't necessarily stop the province from doing it. So the UCP is now going to have to bring the question themselves. And now that there's been a positive framing of the question, I suspect the UCP will have to bring the positive framing of the question. So they're a bit fucked because I still believe that Danielle Smith wants to turn us into a U.S. state. This is my new theory.
We'll explore that later. So here's my reading of it.
You don't want to explore that now?
No simultaneous drives to collect on the same or similar. If it goes to a referendum question, it's a year-long waiting period before a new petition on the same issue can be considered.
But the decision maker on this is Elections Alberta with judicial review, as I understand it.
I think yes, you're right.
Elections Alberta, in my experience anyway, I mean, at this point, has been gutted of most of its teeth. So, they may just do what the government wants, and then somebody's going to have the resources to put it to judicial review. So they might just rule in a way that is contrary to the public interest, and no one will do anything or care.
Let's focus back in on this Forever Canada process. Carter, you've been around campaigns. You've been around what timelines on campaigns look like. This is now clock started. This is a campaign. Give me a sense of what the most realistic landing spot for this group looks like in flash forward 90 days from now. And you don't have, there's obviously the binary, do they or do they not get the signatures, but there's other elements of successful and sometimes unsuccessful campaigns on outcomes that build tremendous community, resources, power, potential, etc. So give me a sense of, paint me a picture of 90 days from now. What's the high watermark in terms of what this group could accomplish if they do things well?
If they do things well, I think they'll get 60,000 signatures.
And what else will they have? Talk to me about volunteers. Talk to me about
They'll have grassroots volunteers who have collected the signatures. They'll hopefully collect them in the proper way. As you know, the recall Gondek volunteers ultimately wound up collecting 60-some thousand or 50-some thousand signatures that were disallowed because they weren't allowed. They didn't follow the proper procedure. So hopefully they at least follow the proper procedure. The likely scenario, and this isn't the best case scenario, Zain, but the likely scenario is maybe the opposition to the question pick up this particular question and say we can still win with this question.
And sorry, just to be clear for the audience and myself, the opposition to this question would be the separatists.
The separatists pick it up and say, we're going to go out and collect 270,000 signatures because we can do that. And we know that this question, we can still succeed with this question. And this is our chance. But realistically, I think separatists combined with the Kazakhs people wind up collecting somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000 signatures. And the best case outcome for this is that the question was considered and now is moot for whatever.
Shannon, you want to hazard painting me a picture in terms of what you might think would happen 90 days from now as they go on their signature drive? Like, you don't have to give me numbers like Carter did, but then I'll let you have a take at this if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, in my head was 50. If the Recall Gondek people collected 60, and you would be driving through Calgary and you'd see them like sitting at the side of the road with like a little sandwich board, right? Like there were some organizational resources behind those signatures. They were in mall parking lots and all that kind of thing. So 50 or 60, probably 90 days is a very short period of time, particularly in summer. So you're going to have to do most of it in September when people are around and paying more attention. And even then, I think volunteers are going to find that as soon as they're going to door or standing in mall parking lots or whatever the case may be, you're going to be standing there explaining to people what the hell you're doing there. Because the information environment is such that people actually don't know a lot about this. Yeah, and without advertising money behind it, that's, again, another problem. Sorry, Carter, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the numbers on this are actually pretty staggering. So if you go door knocking and you get it 33%, 1/3 of the people answer the door, and 1/3 of the people actually sign the petition, which is where we are, right? What is the number that they're trying to reach? 290,000, give or take?
290-something, 94, I believe, is the number.
Yeah, so you multiply that by 9 homes that you'd have to door knock to get one signature. That means they'd have to door knock 2,610,000 homes in order to generate the total number of signatures that they're looking for. That's just
mall parking lots.
Yeah,
is where you're going to have to do this.
There's no fucking way. There is zero fucking way that this thing actually goes forward. I will bet. I don't want to bet $1 million because I don't have $1 million to lose. I will bet $1,000
to who?
This is impossible to anybody. Anybody wants to bet $1,000.
Okay, fine. Well,
okay.
MakeCarterLose.ca. That's where you can submit your form to take on Stephen Carter. We're still collecting last meal at Swiss. By the way, Shannon, how many people have had their last meal at Swiss Chalet? You've probably missed this entire.
No, I saw that part. No.
Okay. Well,
but. Is it an Alberta number? A Canada number?
No, it's a Canada number since the founding of the restaurant, and it's not by food poisoning. Jesus, I've clarified all the things.
Oh,
for all the people.
You have to have had the big one, right? When you go home, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is correct. Yeah.
Okay, how many individuals? Oh, I'd say about 1,000.
Oh, okay. That's a number.
Show your work.
Yeah. Now, part B of this contest, if people are expecting, we have no way of proving these numbers, so people are going to have to actually find out the number and then come back to us and show us that their work is right.
It's not going to show up in Corners
reports.
Reports.
This signed Swiss Chalet hat that we're promising. Let's move it to our over under and our lightning round. I've got 2 questions for you, and they're about 2 very different things. Question number 1, Shannon, I want to start with you, and I want to go flash to the Alberta Next panel for a second because I said we're going to address this, which is the amount of people and the quality of the people that Premier Smith has been able to wrangle into this panel. And my simple question is, can one say no to the Premier when the Premier calls? Is the explanation for why someone with the credibility of, I'm not going to pick on these guys, but Toom or Legg, who are public figures that we know, just have to say yes when the Premier calls? And the question is, can you say no to the Premier when the Premier asks you to do something and phrases it, and perhaps believably so, that it's for the good of the province?
I would say that if you're the Business Council, it's much harder than if you're an independent academic. And if you're an academic, you can say no and do say no all the time to all kinds of things. And so I think there's a distinction there. I do think that there is also a distinction, though, in having a speaking role or not, and validating things. And so that's the distinction I would make for that as well, and that can make it tough to be seen to be validating some of the ideas that were in that Alberta Next survey, which are pretty far offside mainstream opinion for anyone.
Carter, what's your take?
My take is that the people who are on this panel are disqualified from having opinions in the future.
You think so?
You
absolutely. You've been a chief of staff to a premier. It's hard to say no to you and or a premier if you as a chief of staff.
You certainly can say no when the future of the province is at stake, and you're being asked to serve with people like Michael Binion. The list of names on this list.
The Bedfellows is fascinating. If you Google some of these
people, who else
people,
are you going to be with here in this conversation? This is bullshit. I mean, the president of Whitecap Resources is going to be, is going to come across and come out with a reasonable position on how Ottawa has impacted his industry. Like it's are you fucking kidding me? This is bullshit. And the people who want to be taken seriously, I ran into Trevor Toom yesterday, and I apologized to him profusely for calling him a shill. Anyways, he's a total fucking shill for being on this panel. It's very upsetting to me that people that I have respect for would actually take this position, and it will be disqualifying in the future. The way that Steve Allen used to be someone that was respected, and then he's served at the whim of Danielle Smith to write the report that she's already wanted from the beginning, and that's what this panel is. Trevor Toom is trying to pretend that he's actually going to be able to listen to the input. It's bullshit. He's going to have it overweighted with rural, and if you're really reflecting what the population's saying, the population is going to be absolutely skewed. This is the problem with engagement. You don't get the full fucking population. You get the wackadoodles, the 20% of the population that already has believing in conspiracy theories. He's going to get the anti-vax crowd. That's who he's going to get at this fucking panel. What's he going to do? Well, they don't believe in vaccinations, but they do believe in an Alberta police force. Fuck off!
Hey, Carter, my second question is best Stampede political tactic you have seen. Just dial down the blood pressure.
Best Stampede political tactic that I've seen.
Yeah, it could be. We're a couple of days into Stampede. Well, not even a couple. This is day one, but it's already begun if you've done it, Carter, and I know you have.
Yeah.
Historic and or this cycle. For me, I'll tell you, my personal favorite is those Calgary Party lamp posters that Chima came up with that idea. Great idea by Chima.
Chima is a genius at coming up with that idea.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That is the best idea I've ever seen for Stampede.
Yeah, I was told to say that, and I told it would get under your skin.
Yeah, it really fucking bothers me. I'm trying to not let it bother me, but it's really upsetting.
I don't have no idea about the backstory, but I know he did it. I know he did it. Carter, but the question is real. I do think the question is fun. What is a political tactic that you have seen, novel or otherwise, that you find to be intriguing for a Stampede or Stampede-like gathering?
I think it's really difficult because at the end of the day, most of these events are uniform, and you do them. Like every we've talked about the politics of Stampede before on the podcast, and everybody has to do the same things. You go to the same events, you run into the same people, you have the same conversations, and then you move on to the next event. And, the joke is, oh, you're stalking me. Oh, you're following me. Oh,
we, by the way, should direct people to that episode because Corey gives some very good advice that you can now apply to Corey.
Yeah. But you have to do it. You have to do the thing. So I don't think I have what's a great tactic other than you have to do the tactic.
Sure.
This is what you have to do.
And I guess, and I should have phrased my question, but either a tactic in terms of what you've seen from politicians, from political parties, from others. Shannon, I'll expand the scope to you to have you, wide berth on here, wherever you'd like to take it in terms of Stampede or Stampede-like event political tactics you've seen that you find interesting, impressive, novel.
It's the first year in 10 years that I don't have to do Stampede, and I'm not going to, and it is glorious. I cannot tell you how glorious it is. And I'm not doing any of it, and proudly so. But it is important to note that Carter is wrong on this because you don't have to do the traveling cocktail party after a couple of these things. You can stop into one or two of them, and then you can leave that behind. You don't need to be sitting there at 2 p.m. watching the same, vice president government relations get shit-faced at 2 p.m.
You're talking about as an elected official. You don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it. After you do a couple of them, you should just leave. And in my view, the best tactics were once we got away from that glorified pedal bar that is the lobbyist circuit, right? They are just appalling after a little while. Just these, GR people getting shit-faced at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. It's stupid and it's not work, and nobody should subject themselves to it. Instead, what the New Democrats started doing a few years back that I thought was really smart was they started doing local, out in the great beyond. So one at Killarney, one at the Glenmore Reservoir, one, wherever, right up at Confederation Park, you name it, of community events with MLAs or candidates or, riding association people. And it was a reason for the MLAs to go out and canvass and say, hey, I'm having a thing. Right. And there's food, and sometimes it's morning and sometimes it's afternoon. Because Stampede is a time of the community engaging in Calgary in neighborhoods, not necessarily down on Stephen Avenue and on the Stampede grounds and in the associated bars where you go eat canapes and watch business people, wear costumes and get drunk. And so there's much more to Stampede than that. And embedding oneself in community is a really important thing to do. Number 2, fundraising. If all those drunk people are going to be there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you can charge them $350 to come to an event in the evening. That is the best use of your time during Stampede.
Wow. How wrong could Shannon be?
Can I ask
in one episode? Holy
shit!
For
what you could tell me, Shannon, was there any meaningful GR actions or conversations you had at any of those events that led to advancement? She was
on Minister of Environment.
But I'm just curious. I'm curious.
Meaningful interactions.
There are probably
with
people
her
who spend time on hosting, who spend time on setting up these events, who spend time doing these because it's what they've done. I'm actually curious from a former elected minister and official, did you feel like, I know at some point you're like, I'm not doing these anymore, but were they of any value to, any nutritional value to you in your gig as a representative?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's why I said go do 2 or 3 of them and then get the hell out. Because, it is good to make connections with these people, to give out your phone number, to say, yeah, absolutely, I would take that meeting. Because some of those, meetings are important and some of those folks are important. A lot of business does get done at Stampede, but there is a threshold. And after that, it is diminishing returns. So do 1 or 2 of them or 3 or 4 and stack them up and get out. Was my view on it, because after a while, and as the week goes on, people get a little bit looser and drunker. And that is, I used to say to people, I'm like, no, I'm not having a drink at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. I don't drink at work. I don't know what you're doing. It got silly.
Why her personal popularity was so high.
Yeah, like, this judgy woman who claims to be a minister of the crown. It's being a real asshole.
But I just found it to be, if we're at work, then we're at work, and if we're not, then we're not. But there is value in obviously some of that relationship building, and let's face it, those happen at those lobbyists.
That's interesting. So you would go and go
receptions.
hard, and then be like ghost, like not ghost, but like I'm done, right?
No,
like, you'd be like,
and then I would go do community stuff.
Yeah. That's
after that, and I would spend my time, at those breakfasts, working the lineup, talking to people there, like normies, right? Not some VPGR for some midstream company. But I would go and help, Calgary MLAs and let's go do things, or, work the crowd there. Like, in other words, talk to voters, people who vote.
It's ridiculous.
You're just angry. I think she just had the better take within you.
No, my take was fucking fantastic. I think it was in keeping with the ethos of this entire program,
which is,
and she's just shat down our throats.
Which is what, like an uncritical, slavish devotion to Stampede?
Oh yeah, that's what we're known for.
Is that what we're doing here?
Oh my God.
Yes. The Stampede Co-op. Or corporation. I don't know which one it is. We're going to leave it there. That's a wrap on episode 1877 of The Strategist. My name is Zain Velji. With me, as always, Shannon Phillips, Stephen Carter, and we shall see you next time.